Hey, Lord Devereaux, wake up.
What? Is it May already?
No, but I'm interviewing one of the Flash Fiction February winners on this week's podcast episode, so I need you awake.
Ah, yes. Wonderful. An excuse to devour some more of their work again. I suppose it's like revisiting, what do you humans call it? The greatest hits.
That's right, yes. Today I'm interviewing Daniel Coates, who won the lightweight bracket.
Very good. Then I believe I shall start by sampling his Devine tale, The Pride of Dwarves.
Ooh, did someone say dwarfses? We know some dwarfses.
Hey, you two. Yeah, we're talking about Daniel's story from Flash Fiction February.
I love Daniel's work. He's a baker, like me.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. You like to make cookies, Arnold. Hey, wait a second. I think I smell some. Are you making cookies right now?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the timer. What was that noise?
Arnold, you really have to stop doing that. You're way too jumpy. Is everyone okay?
I'm fine.
I know you're fine, Arnold. Gollum, Schmeagol, Lord Devereaux?
We are fine.
I am no worse for wear.
Goodness me! I leave for 5 minutes and I come back to an utter mess. What happened here? Finton, where were you? Oh, I was just off planning something. A new collaboration. Okay, care to share with the class? Not yet, but I will. Hey, that's not fair. I don't keep secrets from you. That's beside the point. Now, what's all this I hear about a special interview today? Hey, don't change the subject. Welcome everyone to the Saved as Draft podcast.
Finton!
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 60 of the Saved as Draft podcast. Today's episode is mostly a return to form. We'll start with our standard shoutouts, randomly picked from my subscriber chat thread, and then I'll read responses from this week's writing discussion, which was about how we can attract new readers to our work or to a new book. After that, I'll be sitting down with this week's featured guest. Daniel Coates was the winner of the lightweight bracket in Flash Fiction February 2026. So today's interview will also include questions submitted by the community, which was part of the grand prize. Daniel also asked me to shout out two people who've been a source of inspiration, support, and mentorship respectively. The first is Victoria Pappas, who is a photographer and the person who took Daniel's profile picture here on Substack. The second person is Daniel's mentor, James Briner, who has a Substack of their own as well, so you can find links to both Victoria and James's work in the show notes. Next is our community spotlight. This week, I'd like to spotlight my friend and fellow poet, Hazel Allen. For those unaware, Hazel is founder and creator of Bookstack, which is a fast-growing catalog of indie books here on Substack that also features great guest articles, interviews, and more. Hazel and I first met when I joined Substack and quickly became good friends. Their poetry is some of the best I've ever read, and speaking of poetry, Hazel also recently rebranded their personal Substack with a fresh new name and look. So be sure to check out Of Potatoes and Poets and subscribe for new poems and updates on Hazel's forthcoming poetry collections. Thank you to Hazel for always being a supportive member of the community. I truly appreciate all of your hard work in helping spotlight new indie authors and their books. All right, that's housekeeping sorted. Let's dive into this week's shoutouts after a quick word from our sponsor. Today's episode of the Saved as Draft podcast is sponsored by Tropomon, the new hit game from developer Freaky Games. Come on, Chosen One! You can do it! Damn, they got me again. I gotta work on training my tropes better.
Hey kid, what you playing?
Oh, it's Tropomon, that new game where you capture writing tropes and train them to battle books in a vast open world.
Tropes?
You know, recognizable plot devices. Stuff like locked room mystery or enemies to lovers. Books are weak against tropes they contain, so you have to attack them with the right Tropomon. Makes sense, right?
Not at all, no.
Okay, so say I'm fighting a romance novel. What kind of tropes do you think a book like that would have?
I don't know, a love triangle.
Right, yeah. So if you send your love triangle Tropomon to attack, it'll do major damage.
Okay. But how do I get a Tropomon?
Well, you gotta capture them with a blank page. There's all kinds of Tropomon out in the wild.
I see. And this is popular.
Oh yeah, super popular. Rumor has it they're gonna release a new version with legendary Archetypemon soon.
Right. Well, I'm gonna go back to playing my farming sims. Those make a lot more sense to me.
Ready to begin your training as a Tropomon trainer? Get your copy of Tropomon, the new chapter today. Tropomon, gotta ride 'em all. All right, and we're back. Now that Flash Fiction February is over, I'll be opening a thread in my subscriber chat every Tuesday where you can share links to your latest work. I'll pick 5 to talk about on the show here. I also share these links with Mina Howell, and she selects several to feature on her show, the Penny Dreadfuls podcast. So, one link share gets you 2 chances to get featured. Let's dive in and see what we got for this week. Our first shout out this week is The Roots of the Forest by Malric Wraithmore, the Liturgist. This piece was born from the combination of a haunting image and a prompt, which asked for a story about an exit sign in the forest. A freaky setup, to be sure. I really like the style here. It blends poetry and prose, with each line standing on its own. This allows you to read it very quickly, and it creates a wonderful sense of pacing in the process. The atmosphere is immediate as well. Malric sets up some excellent imagery in the first few lines, and things only get more horrifying and intense as you continue reading. There's some backstory, but before you know it, you're in the present, and the danger is all around you. The protagonist heads into the forest, seeking someone they've lost. After hours of nothing, he suddenly encounters a young girl in the dark. Then a second girl comes out, followed by many others. From this point onward, the story goes into what I like to call turbo horror mode. The structure works really well here too, as the short lines will have you reading in a panic. Each new development makes the heart race just a little faster. It's an excellent combination of strong writing and a unique structure that heightens the horror. Here's an excerpt. A young girl appeared in a pinafore dress covered in a viscous liquid. He couldn't tell in the dark, but he felt convinced she was the one he'd lost. The way she tilted her head was just like his Anna. As he reached out to her, another sound came in the distance. He swallowed hard. A second girl appeared from behind the brush. Then a third. A fourth. A fifth. Until, in his horror, he lost count. He could only weakly utter, "Who are you?" They spoke in unison like a choir. "We are the Sanguine Girls. You know us well. Come play with us, little rabbit." As they edged closer, he stumbled and fell. Their movements were deliberate, slow, unnerving. Really great stuff. Great work this week. Our second shout out this week is The Doorway to Wonderings by J. Allen Winchester. And this story was actually inspired by an art piece for the Indie Ink Fund's ongoing Portals New Beginnings Challenge. The art here was done by Ariadne Pautina. I've been diving into Jaden's Imaginings universe, and this story, I gotta say, is a great way to learn more about one of its key characters, the solar demiurge named Jay. One of my favorite parts about this story is how we learn that Jay needs dark roast coffee to stay in his human form, or he turns into a dragon. Jaden and I were actually talking the other day, and he mentioned that detail is actually a reference to how, in real life, he needs his coffee, or he'll turn into a grumpy dragon. So I love that. I love how that connects. This story is also very sweet, though, and it bridges our world with Jaden's universe in some really heartfelt ways. The ending, in particular, leaves the door open to more adventures here, and I, for one, am looking forward to them. And of course, whatever you do, don't skip out on Jaden's narration. He does phenomenal work with this piece, as always. Let's check out an excerpt. When Jay had asked for a dark roast coffee, the city park worker had felt excited for the first time in a while. Work had fallen into a stale routine. He wasn't going anywhere in his life. This was his 8th job, and it wasn't because he was a hopper. He progressively burned out faster with each one, getting fired for being low energy, too distracted, or the time he got sick and missed too much work had all led him to this city job. At least he was working out in nature this time around, but there was still a lack of ambition that he worried would doom this job soon enough. That was why it hurt so much to see the portal was gone when he got back from Dunkin' Donuts. He could clearly see the strange boulders that had fallen out of it, but the dragon was gone. Why? Jay had sounded excited to meet him and other people. Though it had only been a moment, he felt he'd lost a friend. He'd just stood in the grass, standing alone for quite a while before his manager arrived to see what he'd called in. Lucky for him, the rocks supported his report, but then the suits showed up. There had been a bombardment of questions for him, but no one would answer the ones his manager asked to give him a break. Fortunately, his manager never took anything as gospel until he researched it himself. When he stepped aside to make some calls, a few SUVs pulled up with lab coats and their briefcases. Great work from Jaden. It's a really cool story. Highly recommend it. Our third shout out this week is It's Alive! Flash Fiction February 2026, The Book, by Robert C. Wurstel. I didn't know this when I picked this post since I choose the links at random, but I gotta say I like how Robert calls me brilliant in the first line here. But in all seriousness, this post is a promotion for Robert's new book, which compiles all of his stories from Flash Fiction February as part of the challenge this year. Not only that, but he's offering the book for a wide range of prices, including a free download. That's right, you'll see links to download the book for free in this post as well. Purchasing is optional to support the author, and I highly recommend it because this is really incredible and a great dedication to this year's challenge. So thanks again to Robert for putting this together. It's awesome to see. Our fourth shout out this week is Fragments of a Life by Bent But True. This is the first of a new series where Bent But True, aka Victor Clubb, recounts his life in fragments. Victor has long hinted at the difficulties of his childhood in his other stories, but this piece really lets you see the whole picture. While being nonfiction, the piece here still retains Victor's iconic storytelling, which offers up sharp statements, perfect word choice, and gut-wrenching realizations. The difference here, of course, is that all this really happened. It's a difficult piece to read, but it makes me somehow respect Victor even more, which I didn't think was actually possible. I've gotten to know this author well over the last year, and after our interview here on this show a while back, I felt like I knew him on an even deeper level. It's truly horrible what he's been through in this life, but I can say with absolute certainty that he's risen above it. And all the good that Victor's doing in the world today is proof that he's thriving in the here and now. Let's check out a quick excerpt, and not to worry, I won't be featuring any of the more intense segments. This is the first of those fragments. At 57, I sit in my wife's childhood bedroom staring at the walls and wondering how the hell I got here. Sometimes it feels like my life has been a series of strange, violent weather patterns, brief flashes of calm smashed apart by storms I never saw coming. Looking back now, I realize my early memories aren't really stories. They're fragments. Broken pieces I learned not to touch for too long because they still burn if I hold them too close. We moved constantly. By the time I hit kindergarten, I'd already been dragged through 4 different schools across 3 states: California, Missouri, Illinois, and finally dumped back in California like lost luggage. Elsinore, Missouri, stands out. We lived in a converted barn. Very powerful piece. Highly recommend reading it. Our final shout out this week is Braids by Pancake Sushi. Right off the bat, I gotta shout out the word choice here. There are terms in this poem that I had to look up, which doesn't happen often these days. Seriously, if you're looking to expand your vocabulary, that's a great reason to read this piece alone. But of course, it's more than just great word choice. This is a poem about how braids exist throughout your body. It's a pattern that appears in our skin, our eyes, and of course, our hair. I loved how the poem here ties into those things as ways that reflect our stories as human beings. How our bodies reflect our stories, how we carry them with us. It's powerful stuff. Let's check out an excerpt. There's braids in your skin, an infinity of infinitesimal twisted overlapping plates, amino chains with telomere caps that appear in their cinnabar hues when your pricked finger bleeds, in the rich pigment of your rosebud lips, the crystalline blue of your eyes. Amazing stuff. It's a short poem, so I don't want to give too much away. Be sure to check it out. You'll find links to all this week's shoutouts in the show notes. Next up is our weekly writing discussion. But first, a quick mindful moment. Hey there, this is Chill Bradley, here with this week's mindful moment. Here's a quote to consider. You are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream. C.S. Lewis. I love this quote because it goes against everything society tells us about how our lives are supposed to work. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I was told you had to have everything figured out. You had to have a college picked out by the time you were in high school. And you needed to be married with a house and kids by the time you were in your mid-20s. Success back then had specific goals and a set timeline, but that's not how real life works. After all, we're all on our own journeys, our own timelines. So try to remember that next time it feels like you're stuck. Remember, it's all part of the process. Thanks for listening. Back to the show. All right, and it's time for our weekly writing discussion. Every Wednesday in my subscriber chat, I open a thread with a writing topic and ask you all to share your thoughts. And you know the deal. If you take the time to respond, I'll take the time to read your answers on the show. So this week's topic was first impressions. How do you hook your readers? How do you attract new readers to your work? Let's see what everyone had to say. All right, first up, Z Martin says, I've always leaned towards insanity as the hook. I don't want you to go into one of my works thinking you have the slightest clue what could happen. Take my short story collection, Tales from Chesterfield, for example. I set you up as if you were part of the book with a narrator that may or may not be reliable, and then force you to relive the town's nightmarish reality. Tips for authors. Don't be ashamed to market like mad and really share the world you've created. You never know when the algorithm will decide to shine favorably on you. No, I really like this. That collection sounds incredible, by the way. It reminds me of what I'm doing with Clenchport, which is also a town that starts with the letter C. So I got to check that out. That sounds amazing. But the advice here is exactly on point. I love the insanity as the hook. I think that's unique. And yeah, don't be ashamed to market your stuff. I know self-promotion's hard, which is why I did a article about it last year. But yeah, it's something that all authors, have to kind of practice and learn how to do. So great advice there to start us off from Z Martin. Next up, Rebecca Watson says, first impressions are tricky because writing and marketing use completely different muscles. One is storytelling, the other is basically standing on a street corner in a trench coat whispering, hey, want to read something weird? I love that so much. For me, the hook usually isn't a polished marketing line, it's a feeling. One thing I've learned on Substack is that authenticity hooks better than strategy. Readers can smell marketed writing from a mile away, but they'll happily follow a voice that feels real, curious, or a little unhinged in the best way. My only real tip, don't just try to grab attention. Give the reader a reason to stay. A flashy hook might get someone to click, but a compelling first moment makes them keep reading. Also, weird helps. Weird is underrated. I wish I could frame that. That is a perfect response from Rebecca there. I love all of it, and I totally agree. The authentic approach is the way to go, especially here on Substack. And I also agree with the second part here about not just grabbing attention, but giving the reader a reason to stay. Really good advice there. Because again, the hook is important, but so is the rest of the story. So once you have their attention, you want to keep it. Great advice from Rebecca. Verdant Butterfly says, last October, I started using my subheadings to let readers know the general genre they can expect when they open a piece. Things like poem, fiction, humor, fiction, dark humor, and so on. More recently, I've been using notes to share my story directories. Between the two, I've started seeing a few names pop up in the comments, which has been lovely. Good stuff. Yeah, that's a really good tip. I also try to put something interesting in the subtitle. Sometimes I'll classify it. Other times it'll just be kind of, something intriguing to kind of get you to click. But that's really good. I like that idea a lot. And then, yes, I do agree with Butterfly's notes here about the directories. She's been doing, I believe, genre-specific directories. I just have kind of a general one for all my stuff. But either way, having directories like that, making it easy to navigate and find your work, really good stuff. Great advice. J. Allen Winchester says, marketing is my left Achilles heel, the right being editing. Because my works are so diverse, I try to find what stands out about them to draw readers. For Dodecatheon, I told people it was like Game of Thrones meets Greek mythology. For Solar Order, I said that the freshman year of high school is hard enough without black clouds distracting you around campus and hatching dragons before you get your dorm key. Thicker Than Blood was vampires and pizza for a while. Like I said, I try to think about what stands out as unique and see if that grabs people's attention. Granted, I'm far better at this in person, so my online presence is hit or miss when I can't read the other person. It's why I do my weekly check-ins to give people an idea of what kinds of things I write about. I feel more confident in building an audience personably than just being trendy. It's why I fear I will never break through to BookTok/Bookstagram/BookTube. Yeah, Jaden brings up some really good points here, and I gotta say, as someone who's spoken to him over video calls and stuff, he definitely has that energy that makes the in-person conversations really shine, because you can kind of hear in his voice the passion that he has for his work, and that makes his worlds, which are already interesting, even more enticing. So it is tough to do that over the internet, and as Jaden pointed out, there's all kinds of trends, there's lots of competition, especially when it comes to other platforms. Obviously, here on Substack in our community, we don't compete with each other. We support each other, and I love that. But that's unfortunately not the case everywhere all the time. So maybe it'll change, maybe not. But I love Jane's advice here about focusing in on what makes the stories unique. So great advice. J.M. Gooding says, no idea, I just write. Readers get to decide if the writing has worth. I don't write with a conscious hook, nor do I try to market my stories. I just write them and let people decide if it's worthy of their time. Hey, you know what? Straightforward and a fair approach. And I think it seems to be working for him since J.M. Gooding, let's all remember, was the middleweight champion in Flash Fiction February. Nick Winnie says, I don't really do a lot other than interact with others. Read them, try to leave a helpful, encouraging, and artistic comment. Occasionally suggest one of my pieces because it resonates. Make sure I joined into collabs and competitions because of the market, and you meet just the best people with amazing, inspirational work and keep posting stuff as regularly as you can. I've built 300 plus subs over 2 years, admittedly only about 35% actually reader engaged. Make your own engagement meaningful to the person you're reading. They will read your stuff and some subs will come from them. I had no goals other than to have another person read and enjoy my stories. I'm blessed and very happy that I have found this, a small kernel of people who read everything I write. I touch nerves for them, and this is the best thing ever as a writer. Yeah, great stuff from Nick there. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's best not to obsess over kind of numbers and goals. Obviously, you want to keep track of those things, but there is something beautiful about just, cherishing the people that are reading and enjoying those really kind of small, high-quality, genuine moments when people connect with your work and when you connect with theirs. So great advice from Nick. Next up, Daniel Coates says, within the story itself, my hook is the, hopefully, compelling first paragraph or so where I set up the world and get the story running so they can be invested or not. As for marketing, I'm still learning and trying things, but honestly, word of mouth is best. If you can get someone who likes your stories to tell someone else, you're lucky, or you're doing something right. Daniel's very on point there with his advice. Yeah, you kind of have that first paragraph, I'd say. It's always good to have a good opening line, but the first paragraph is also something to consider as kind of the hook. And then as we've heard earlier in the chat here, you want to make sure that you keep their attention afterward, of course. And yes, word of mouth when it comes to marketing is difficult to do consistently, but if you can get people talking about your stuff, then you are well on the right track. So that's great advice from Daniel. Mark Armstrong says, when I publish a new post, Substack immediately gives me a chance to announce same with a note. I always take advantage and try to come up with a line or two that makes people curious enough to take a look. I also attach a banner at the end of all posts, essentially click here for 5 good reasons to subscribe, and it takes them to a why subscribe page where I make my case. I really like that, actually. In marketing, we always say that everything should have a CTA or call to action at the end. So Mark's example here is perfect. Send people over to the why subscribe page to learn more about why they should stick around and read more of your work. That's really interesting stuff. Great advice. And yes, I always restack everything with a note when I publish, trying to pull people in. So Mark's batting 1,000 there. That's great advice. Christy says, people seem to enjoy my fiction and writing prompts, and I'm glad that Christy brought up the writing prompts specifically because I always tell people if you're trying to bring in new readers and meet new people, running a challenge like I do with the writing prompts is a fantastic way to do that. So I appreciate Christy calling that out. Mary Ellen Brady says, my honest attempt, since I write in every genre I can imagine, is to have a killer opening line. That is the plan. Still mastering it? I am a mess in progress and working on it. I think we're all a mess in progress, Mary Ellen. But yes, Mary Ellen is someone, I call her a genre chameleon because she can write in every genre and act like she, blends right in. It's fantastic. And she always does have killer opening lines. So it's interesting to hear kind of secrets from the master, if you will. I love it. Sarah Tinney says, I have no strategy, laughing emoji, but I've started trying to use tags more intentionally so if someone makes it to my page, it's a little easier to find stories on parenting, fantasy, etc. And I'm looking at putting little themed collections on Gumroad just to see if anything happens. Okay, cool. I have not heard of Gumroad. Looks like Sarah shared some stuff about it in the chat thread there, so I'll take a look. But yeah, no, having tags to kind of intentionally organize your writing is really good. I have a bunch for my stuff, so that's great advice just to keep things kind of organized on the back end and for readers, of course. All right, next up, TP Chaos says, restacking my posts with a note when they go live is an approach I have found to be successful. A couple good lines about the story and quoting seems to be the best way to attract some more readers. Love these discussion threads. And thank you, Chaos, for sharing that wonderful advice. Yeah, like I said earlier, restacking my stories with a note when they go live is really good. Some people also will restack using the quote option where you can highlight some text and have that be a quote in your restack. I think that's cool too. Anything you can do to help it stand out. So great advice. Last up, Jennifer Jorgensen says, I always try to have an opening line that grabs the reader. Something funny or actiony or just voicey. Yes, and Jennifer does incredible work in that regard. So I highly recommend checking out her stuff because she definitely hooks you in every single time. And on that note, I'd like to offer my own answer here, or at least part of an answer. I always focus myself on really strong opening lines, and then I try to deliver on them, of course, like we talked about with some of these answers. So I'll share with you all a line from a story that I did a long time ago, and I'm actually planning on revamping this story, remastering it, if you will, and republishing it soon on Substack. So look out for a story called Tasty Treats. That's what it's called, if you will. Anyway, the opening line from that story is one of my favorites of all time that I've written, and it says simply, "A man's gotta eat. That's what my mama always used to say. I wonder if she ever thought her son would be eating people for a living." And that is, of course, a horror comedy, so stay tuned for that. And thank you to everyone who responded. Next up is our featured guest interview with Flash Fiction February lightweight bracket winner Daniel Coates. But first, my dear friend Fintan Marybrook has a quick story to tell you all. Greetings, one and all. You find yourself in the presence of Fintan Marybrook, the greatest storyteller in all of Devine. Last month, I introduced you to my new series of mini-stories for all ages called Fintan's Tiny Tales. I shared with you a story about an elven princess named Tamsin, who, with the help of a kind baker, brought balance back to herself and to Avondale Forest. This week, I'd like to share another story about our elven friend. This story is called Tamsin's First Treat. Long ago, in the heart of Avondale Forest, a princess was born. Her mother and father, the king and queen of the elves, named her Tamsin. Now, like all elves, Tamsin was born with a connection to the World Tree. As a rite of passage when elves come of age, the World Tree sends them on a journey to discover themselves and their true power. The World Tree spoke to Tamsin in a dream, telling her of a dragon who was hidden somewhere in Avondale Forest. The dragon was in pain, and while others had tried to help it, no one could discover what ailed it. And so, Tamsin set out on her mission from the World Tree. When she came face to face with the dragon, she was scared, but she knew the World Tree was watching from far away, so she had to be brave. She examined the dragon for wounds as it watched her silently. She couldn't find anything, so she tried her magic. Still nothing. Fed up with trying to discover what ailed the dragon, Tamsin decided to simply ask, "What's wrong with you, my dragon friend?" The dragon's eyes went wide. No one had ever asked it what was wrong before. They just poked, prodded, and then went on their way. The dragon responded in Tamsin's mind as dragons do, and it simply said 2 words. "I'm hungry." Tamsin laughed. The problem was so simple. She thought about asking the dragon what it wanted, but instead she decided to trust her instincts. She went home and baked the finest cake Avondale had ever seen. For you see, she had been practicing baking and thought the dragon would enjoy something special. She took the cake back to the dragon and it was overjoyed. "It's so beautiful!" the dragon exclaimed. Tamsin smiled as it ate the entire cake in one gigantic bite. Not only did Tamsin pass her test from the World Tree, but the dragon and Tamsin became fast friends after this as well. The end. Thank you all for listening to another one of my tiny tales. I'll see you again soon, back in the realm of Devine. All right, and thank you to Fintan for that fun little story. I told him he could come back onto the show whenever he has a new story to tell in his series there. Okay, now it is time for our featured guest interview. This week I'm sitting down with our Flash Fiction February lightweight winner, who is an author that has long inspired me with his character-driven stories and his incredible contributions to Devine as well. This is one of my favorite interviews yet, so get comfortable and let's jump right in. All right, everybody. And this week on the Saved as Draft podcast, I've got the first of 3 interviews with the winners of Flash Fiction February. So this week, I'd like to welcome to the podcast our lightweight division winner, Daniel Coates. Daniel, thank you for being here.
Hi, yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So let's start off by having you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your creative journey thus far.
All right. Feels redundant to say my name again, but I am a father of 2. I have been an avid reader for as long as I can remember. And I haven't really done a lot of storytelling until I was about 13. I started playing D&D when I was 11 with AD&D, and I started DMing at 13 with
Hmm.
my dad's group. And from there, like telling stories and like being with other people who are also adding to the story, like that was super cool. And I didn't really think too much of it at the time. I was like, yeah, it's a game, we're having fun. And then we fast forward a bit to when I was going to try to figure out what I was going to do with my life when I was going to go to college. And I was like, yeah, like I know stories somehow. What if I do like art? Because I got some drawing ability. So I went into college for art, the Art Institute of Wisconsin, which is no longer there. So I don't know if that's an indication for you that that did not end very well. They went on a teach out, and that kind of from there I kind of pivoted. And I was like, well, what am I going to do with my life now? And my uh, well, wife at the time found the contests that they were doing on Vocal, which I believe you started on Vocal, right? Or did some stuff with Vocal.
Yeah, I was
Um,
actually on Vocal before Substack. Yeah.
yeah. So that's I wrote a story for a contest for that. It was called A Night at Wainwright Manor. And that was like I had such a blast with it. And I was like, I actually really enjoy doing this. Maybe this is something I could do more, like in the future. And I started doing like sporadically some of those contests and posting them there. Um, but then was it 2023? I started working on taking my best ones of that, and I actually put them together. Oh, your best short stories, sorry, and I put them together into a book. So I actually have a very short anthology on Amazon right now
Hmm.
called Past Figments, and that was an adventure going through the self process publishing process. Um, Sorry if this is getting a bit long winded, but the last thing I wanted to say is that last year, I actually had a job change where I was actually fired for political, like corporate politics reasons. We obviously probably can't get into,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
shouldn't. But from there, I was, unemployed, and I was like, well, what am I gonna do? And I was like, actually, like this could be like a blessing in disguise. This is like the perfect time to go start writing.
Mm.
Um, so with that and from the encouragement from my friend, Victoria, I wanted to shout her out her name real quick.
Yeah.
Uh, she she kind of inspired me with her journey as she became a full-time freelance photographer to go make the jump and try to start doing writing for a job. I did end up eventually getting a day job as well because that I'm a baker.
Mm.
Um, so I work for Crumble, but yeah, from so I started writing a lot more, and then another friend of mine, his name is James Brenner. He actually runs a publication here for business. It's called Your News Biz on
Mm.
Substack.
Okay.
He, I started working with him as like a mentor, or like he was mentoring me. And he actually was like, "Hey, have you ever tried Substack for publishing your stories?" And I was like, I didn't know anything about it at the time, but he kind of gave me that push, and that's why I found myself here. And like the first person I ran into was you. Well, work. You're like everywhere, and I was like, "Oh, this is a really cool guy." And then I started reading your stuff, and I was like, "Dang,
That's great. That's great. No, I love that. I love that. That's a fantastic journey so far. I wanted to ask quickly about you mentioned that you were DMing for D&D as early as age 13. So were you writing those campaigns as well with that group?
yeah." So my very first adventure that I ever did, I wrote on like front and back one page,
Yeah.
with a drawing of a castle in the middle, and from there, like everybody really enjoyed it. Even as a 13-year-old, maybe they were being a little bit like to me, like pandering to me. I don't know, but from there, like they let me join like a rotation. So it was like my dad would DM, and then his best friend would DM
Oh,
an
okay.
adventure, and then I would do an adventure.
That
Uh,
is cool.
yeah, it was so much fun. Without that, I don't know where I would be as a storyteller today because that taught me a lot of things
Hmm.
for stories in general and how to engage people.
Right, right. That is such a really cool and interesting and unique way to kind of get into storytelling at a young age. I love that. That's really, really cool. I assume you still play D&D these days too, yeah?
It's been a while
Yeah.
since I actually played with anybody. I still like to talk about it. I still reminisce.
Mm.
My last big adventure was before I moved to where I am now. I had my group. We did a big like epic campaign, and then right before I moved, I was like, "We're not going to finish this. So actually, how would you guys like to be thrown into the last, like the end of it, like that I had planned? And we'll just make you all level 20, and we'll go."
Okay.
So I have a lot of great memories of that. But sorry, I lost a point with your question.
No, no, you're fine. You're fine. No, I was just curious if you were if you were still kind of doing D&D. It's been a while for me too, actually. It's been several years. I don't even know how many years. But yeah, I love tabletop stuff. It's just I'm sure you ran into this issue with your other groups that you've been in. It's always hard to get everybody's schedules lined up.
The enemy of D&D is scheduling and time.
Yeah.
Like that's the big bad that nobody can.
Yeah, right. It's way tougher than any boss you could throw at him.
Yep, and it always comes back.
Right. All right. Well, my next question here that I wanted to ask about, now that you've like as you described, your creative journey has been, kind of like anybody else's, there's been stops and starts, but it sounds like nowadays you're really kind of back into the groove of things. So my next question for you is, in the here and now, what like genres and themes do you tend to focus on in your work? Where do you normally gravitate?
So I generally consider myself like when I tell people I'm a writer, I'll be like, that's what I write, and I'll be like, yeah, I mostly write fantasy and sci-fi.
Uh-huh.
So like that's generally where I gravitate. As you know, I've done a lot of different varieties of genres now. I've been You and Mina have been wearing me down to do horror a bit, so I've done a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Um, and let's see, I just recently, like in Flash Fiction February, discovered that cozy is actually really fun to write. Um, that was a surprise for me. I never saw myself as a cozy writer at all.
Mm.
Um, but as for like themes that keep coming up, I've noticed people really like my like little human moments.
Mm.
Like for an example, in my ongoing serial, I have a moment when Biz, the main character, sorry, this year is called The Water Thief.
Right.
Um, I had where he's like remembering, like he's trying to nurse his son back to health, his son, and he has this memory of like when he was putting his son to bed as a kid, and I had a lot of the feedback from that, and that kind of hit me because I didn't really think about it when I was doing it.
Hmm.
But like that sort of thing shows up a lot in my writing, like these little moments with people like interacting. That usually just comes from my own experiences, as a father and a human. But what I prefer to write, or what I focus on more and happens less subconsciously, is like the suspense and hype. Like I think the first story you ever shouted out for me was, I think Nemesis was what it was called.
Mm.
I like to write when a thing is being promised super subtly and it builds up so that the reader and also me as a writer while I'm writing it, like super ready for when it does actually happen. When that promise pays off, you should hopefully know it's coming and it feels great.
Mm-hmm. Right, that makes sense. Yeah, it's interesting that you called out kind of the specific sort of character slash human moments, because that's something that I've found people really gravitate to as well. And when it comes to fantasy, I'm curious of your thoughts on this. But when it comes to fantasy, my stuff always focuses on, okay, big stakes, really interesting world building, lots of lore, but not enough to, weigh down the pacing of the story. But I found that some of the feedback that I've gotten, especially with Order of the Pawn, the ongoing series that I have that you're familiar with, people tell me they want to see more of those moments where it slows down and the characters have a moment to kind of connect and have real kind of moments. I think you even called out one between Sarai and Yeldarb in one of the recent chapters that I thought was really cool, that you had like kind of, honed in on that. So is that something too, where it's like you kind of went through a similar realization when it comes to fantasy, in the sense that like, oh, this isn't, I mean, it is about all these big things, but it's also about the small things, right?
Yeah, no, I'd say 100% because like even just in reading the Order of the Pawn, which I highly recommend everybody should go read. Like this is my favorite my favorite serial on Substack. Sorry all the other serials I read. But the Yeah, just like everybody likes those. They need those moments to ground themselves, and this is like a recent. This is a recent realization for me. Uh, yeah. Like as a fantasy writer or somebody who reads a lot of fantasy, like you remember those like huge epic battles, like the big things that are going on, the cool world building stuff. But
Hmm.
like it is the human moments that like ground all of that.
Right.
Um, I don't know if I said that twice. It's important. So
Yeah. No, it absolutely is. It really is. And it's something that I just never it never really clicked until recently for me. So it's interesting that you had kind of a similar realization with your work.
yeah, I mean, you laid it out right here, and I hadn't thought about it so directly until literally this time, like right now. So thank you.
Right. Right. No, no problem. I always love it when these interviews include a few epiphanies. So all right. Well, my next question for you here, d during your first answer, you mentioned how you made your way to Substack. So my next question for you is, how long have you been on Substack now? And then what's your kind of general vibe of the community thus far?
So I've been on Substack since July of last year.
Hmm.
Um, so it's been about 9 months, I believe. Um, and the community is like just staggering, just staggering. The amount of talent, like not even just the amount, the quality of the talent is beyond. Like it blows my mind if I think about it for too long. And then also just everybody is so supportive and positive. And it's like so supportive and positive that the negative voices just get drowned out. I have
Yeah.
seen a couple people excuse me, occasionally, um, that'll pop up, but then they're just gone like the next second. Like I right now, my feed is just all positive. Like my interactions have always been positive with everybody here. It's amazing.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. That's what I strive for. And I love asking guests on the show that question because it's like I love to hear the different perspectives, but one thing that I hear consistently is exactly what you said. It's like everyone's positive, it's super supportive. You know, I've seen conversations on other platforms, other social platforms where authors are talking about, we need to stop competing with each other. We need to like work together, like we're all in this together kind of thing. And, I always, respond to that by being like, well, have you come over to Substack yet? Because nobody here's competing with anybody. We're all trying to help each other out.
Right. Yeah. And that's like a huge stereotype or stigma for authors, especially, is they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, they're cutthroat. Everybody hates everybody else's work because even if they secretly like it, they gotta say they hate it because they're competing for the same readers. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, I haven't experienced that here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's one of those things where it's like realistically, yes, readers only have so much time and there are a finite number of people, within any given audience as well. But, in my experience, it's just there's so much more to gain by working together with other authors, by lifting each other up, by amplifying each other because, it not only is it good from just like a marketing kind of like networking standpoint and a community standpoint, but it's also something where you stand to gain so much more by lifting up others and working with others than trying to just carve out your own little space, like and gatekeep everything, you know what I mean? um
yeah,
so it's just but it's like you said, it's rare. It's really hard to find that. Like until this community that you and I are in now, I've never found this anywhere else in my life.
right. And it's just like, I think I said previously, quoting myself here, not to
Yeah.
sound arrogant, but like this community is such a rare gem.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, it does all help. It helps all of us to like help build each other up. Like, I mean, that's what community is, like by definition. But
Yeah.
also, it's just like it's just kind, and you don't see kindness on the internet,
Right. Exactly.
like ever. And that's incredible. Like, I don't have any words to say besides competing, like continuing to regurgitate incredible, awesome, amazing, because it is.
It is. It really, really is. No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And that's great. A couple of months from now, you'll be coming up on your 1 year stack anniversary, as I like to call it.
Yeah.
So that's
I have
great.
no idea what I'm gonna do for it.
We'll figure something out. Um,
Yeah.
so, for my next question here, obviously, as I mentioned in the introduction of the interview, you yourself were the winner of the Flash Fiction February 2026 Lightweight Division. And this was not your first challenge with me on the writer's journey, but this is your first win. So, my question for you is, you know, for those who were in the challenge this year, or someone who's just kind of listening in, how was it for you being in this challenge this year, and what lessons maybe did you learn kind of from participating, because you participated in nearly all the prompts, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so I set out and I was like, I'm gonna do a prompt for every single or a story for every single prompt. I was like, I'm gonna be here every day. And like I had well, first of all, I'll say I had so much fun. This was such a good competition. It brought me so close to other people that I had never like closer than I've ever been. And my friend group has just like ballooned in size with other writers because of this challenge specifically.
That's so good.
Um, so thank you.
Of
I feel like
course.
I've probably said thank you a lot. I'm going to continue to say it. Thank you again. Um, as for like challenge, but like I didn't quite get all 28 stories because I actually worked myself in like between this and then my job being crazy because as a baker, February, especially Valentine's Day was very busy. So between those two, I kind of worked myself into being sick. So actually, the last 2 weeks, I kind of dropped off a lot. Um, but like that's also an inspiring thing, I guess, because like how many people were still, even though I didn't quite do a story every day, like interacting, engaging, reading my stories, like that was incredible and surprised me. Uh, I actually didn't think I wasn't really sure if I was gonna win or I figured I'd place in the top, not to sound arrogant, but like
Uh-huh.
because I knew a lot of people were reading my stuff. As for things I learned, uh just I guess the biggest thing was and I know that people like my writing, or a good number of people, but
Hmm.
like I kind of had this like epiphany of like wow, like people really like the stuff I've done. Like my writing has real value.
Hmm.
Uh, which I don't know, maybe that's simple, but that's where my brain was. I was like, this is crazy. Uh, and I kind of got hung up on that. um, but I guess the other thing I learned was how to promote myself better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I did a lot, especially towards the end while I was sick, of like talking to people, messaging people, just like putting myself out there a bit more on like social media platforms, which I had never really done before, or at least not successfully. So, yeah, there's a variety of things that came from the challenge that were just positives. So,
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that answer. I love the kind of positive takeaways. Not only for yourself and kind of the confidence in your writing, but also like you said, all the friends that you made and how you connected with the community on a even deeper level. That's just amazing to hear. I love it. Um, I wanted to actually ask you a follow-up question because as part of Flash Fiction February, you were also a participant in the Devine Challenge, which this is the second year that I've ever hosted a formal Devine Challenge. And you, of course, took home third place in that challenge with your story, The Pride of Dwarves, which also happened to be, if I'm not mistaken, the top performing story for you the entire month. Like it was your number one story. So I'd love to
it
just
did
take a
creep up
second.
there.
Yeah. So I'd love to just take a second and, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about that story specifically, how you approached kind of that story of the Dwarves of Devine.
I would love to. That's probably my favorite story I've ever worked on to date.
Mm,
And that's like also kind of like the cementing what's the word I'm looking for here? Final nail in the coffin for myself as being like a fantasy writer because I would always say I'm a fantasy writer,
yeah.
and then I wrote and I was like, yes, this is just good. It kind of flowed out of me. Like okay, so uh, I went in seeing the prompt and about dwarves and dragons, and I was like, hell yeah, like that sounds awesome. I definitely want to get it in here.
Yeah.
And I had these concepts for like how I wanted to show. I think we were talking too a little bit about like because I was asking you questions about like dwarves' age and stuff
Yeah.
to see because I have with my background in Dungeons and Dragons, I have a lot of knowledge of dwarves. Actually, my dad's favorite character is a dwarf, so we would end up doing dwarf related stuff in his campaigns.
Nice.
Um, and like um just the story kind of flowed out of me. I was like, I got this like big parade idea, like I gotta do that, and then I got this big dragon idea.
Mm.
And so it's like I gotta show the dwarves being awesome before catastrophe inevitably happens to them.
Right. Right. Right.
And I did also want to throw out real quick. I have a very very obscure dwarf fortress actually reference in there. I don't know if very many people would even recognize the name of the town is actually a dwarf fortress reference.
I love it. I love Easter eggs like that. Yeah, one thing I've always appreciated about your work, but I noticed it a lot in this story specifically, The Pride of Dwarves. And it's interesting now that I know kind of your sort of creative journey thus far, your experience working with Dungeons and Dragons and kind of being immersed in that world. Really gave you, I think, a really good eye for just kind of world building and atmosphere. And so that came through really beautifully in this particular story that you did, because I feel like you not only, it's like you said, you were asking me questions about dwarven lifespans and stuff like that. You were really getting into the nitty gritty of the details in a good way. And then in the actual story, I feel like you portrayed what felt like a very organic and real kind of society with like different aspects and different kind of, cultural elements. Like, for example, the singing in that story, how the dwarves were singing while they were working. Just really, really amazing granular details. And I feel like that comes back to your, kind of passion and experience with Dungeons and Dragons. I think that's where you may have learned those skills because it really, really popped in that story.
Thank you very much. You can't see it, but I'm grinning huge. Yeah, no. Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course. No, I just wanted to call that out. And for anybody listening, if you're a Devine fan, that story is practically required reading. And if you're not, you should check out that story and become a Devine fan. That's your other option.
That's your way in. That's your ladder.
Right. That's your gateway story is The Pride of Dwarves by Daniel Coates. Which of course I'm going to include a link in the show notes too. All right. So, for the next part of the interview here, as listeners may know, prior to this, essentially the prize for each of the Flash Fiction February winners was a interview on the show here, but something a little different than the normal interview. So for the winners, I am accepting community submitted questions. So earlier this week, before Daniel and I got on our interview here, several people in the community submitted questions through my subscriber chat, and we had one come in through notes as well. So Daniel, I'm going to start asking you questions from a few other folks around here. I imagine you'll recognize just about all these names. But let's start off.
Scared.
Yeah, yeah. Let's start off with the first one here. So our first question is from Rebecca Watson, who asks, if one of your Flash Fiction February stories had to become a movie immediately, which one would you pick, and who would you cast in the lead role?
I hate to double down. Actually, don't hate to. I love to double down on the Pride of Dwarves.
Okay, yeah,
It would
do it.
100% be the Pride of Dwarves. As for a lead role, I really am not sure who could play Byrrc, but I did like. I had this other thought, right? Like, I have some ideas for who could play the dragon at the end. Like, I understand Jeremy Irons is still alive and doing stuff, and he would have a dragon voice.
Yeah.
So if I'm shooting for the moon, or the obvious choice, if we couldn't get him, would of course be Benedict Cumberbatch for Small Breeze.
Right. Yeah, definitely. As far as the dwarven character, I mean, I don't know the actor's name, but like the most iconic dwarf kind of in Hollywood for me is of course Gimli from Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Oh yeah,
Um
definitely. His name escapes me too.
right, right. I
Amazing actor.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like all my dwarven kind of voices that I do are based off of him.
No, that's fair. But I think the thing is they'd have to be kind of like a dwarf kid, but like be like, well, a dwarf kid, so they'd have to be like a little scared of what's going on. And
Right.
you know, definitely if Gimli's actor was playing him, I feel like that would be a little too badass.
For sure, for sure. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I love that answer, and I love that you picked a Devine story. Man, I'm hoping that one day we can look back on this episode of the podcast and laugh about how we talked about there being Devine movies one day. I'm still hoping, holding out hope it'll be a thing one day. Um,
Oh my gosh.
that's the goal, right? All right.
Oh yeah.
So, next question submitted by the community. Verdant Butterfly asks, in several of your stories, you feature gnomes like Pixaflix, Trudaloo, and Dwali. These characters are so likable and endearing. Do you have a bigger plan for them?
I am so glad she loves the characters, and she's actually told me several times. She's like, "You got to write more for these people." Um, so generally, I do have some ideas how the story would go. Like I know uh, when I wrote not the very first story I wrote, but the second story where they're like in because the first story is more like a flashback because it was like when they met as kids,
Hmm.
Dwalin and but Dwalin and Pixaflix as adults. Um, like that was where I was like, oh, I need to at least get a general idea where this might go because I might do something with this. So I have a plan. It definitely involves the blood feud with the dwarves and the gnomes in that cavern.
Mm.
Um, but I think for right now, I'm kind of trying to focus on some of my other projects. So actually, she herself, Verdant Butterfly, had suggested that I could still like use them for like prompts and stuff, kind of like she does for her Theo and Juno stories.
Yeah.
Um, so for now, that's probably what I'll do. It's just if I see a prompt and I'm like, oh, that fits where I want to go with them, I'll write another story. Eventually, I will come back to them because the feedback has been insanely positive for those guys. So yeah, I guess that's the general plan. Is there is no plan yet.
Gotcha, gotcha. Yeah, just kind of returning characters, as you said, to be used in standalone stories and prompts and stuff like that for now.
Yes, but furthering it each time.
For sure, for sure. I like that. That's a really interesting approach. Yeah, I think that works. All right. Well, our next question here is from J.M. Gooding, and
Oh no.
he included a link to a story of his that I have to imagine is like a similar premise to his question here. But J.M.'s question is this: as a baker, if people started spontaneously budding cookies from their bodies as stress responses, what kind of cookie do you think you'd quote unquote bloom?
So I read the story.
Okay.
And actually, on one of my notes, I think it was the note where I said, "Hey," I was like restacking you, telling people that you should ask me questions. Uh, I mentioned the crunchy taco thing that you have going on with him.
Yeah.
Um, and he was like, "No, no, no, that's Bradley's cross. You'll have your own cross to bear." And,
I did see
I
that.
was
Yeah.
wondering what it was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, let's see, cookie bloom. Well, my first thought would be my favorite cookie, but honestly, I don't think that. Uh, Realistically speaking, here, I think I would probably do gluten-free macadamia nut like cookies, like with the white chocolate
Okay.
chunks.
Right.
Uh, Mostly because the gluten-free is because I actually have celiac disease,
Okay.
so I'm actually a baker who can't eat anything I make.
Oof.
Um, yeah, it's a whole thing. It does help, keep my weight down and all that. So, uh, there's some positives there, but it also means every day I'm tortured by the smell.
Yeah, that's oof. Yeah, the universe certainly has a sense of irony.
Right.
Okay, so white chocolate, macadamia nut, gluten-free cookies. Okay. I like it. I
Hmm.
like it. Let's see I'll be interested to see JM's response to that or if you'll have a similar reaction to my answer regarding the tacos or not.
Right, we'll find out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, I think it's a good answer and it makes sense. So,
Thank you, thank you.
yeah. All right, moving on to the next question here. Mina Howell asks, "Do you have any plans to start a story duel in the future?"
Oh, okay. So way back when, before you did the prompt for, like way before you did the prompt for the Devine stories,
Hmm.
I think it was like middle of January, I want to say. We actually had a little thing where I like started a kind of I was trying to start a beef with her
Yeah,
about who's a bigger Devine fan.
right.
And that kind of ballooned more or less into and merged with the challenge that you did. Um, but like then afterwards we were talking and the idea of like story duel and possibly like maybe like a tournament or something as like a challenge like that could be something really fun.
Yeah.
I put some thought into it. That might be something I try to host in a while, and I think that'd be really cool, but I don't have any solid ideas about it yet besides what I just said.
Gotcha, gotcha. No, I like the concept a lot. I know you said it's super early on still, but do you have any thoughts thus far as to how you would judge the winners? Like, would it be kind of like the engagement-based scoring system that I use, or would it be more like, would you have judges, or have you thought about that yet?
Well, I guess I hadn't thought about it so much ahead of time, but right now, off the top of my head, I would
Yeah.
say two ideas come to mind.
Mhm.
One, the engagement based thing would make the most sense because it would be
Right.
kind of like a way to judge the story's worth. But it also could be really fun to like appoint somebody for
Hmm.
like either individual duels or as like the overall thing, like a noble or like a king or somebody who judges who wins. Like
Right.
that could be kind of cool,
Yeah.
but that also could be potentially weird to figure out. So I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. No, I think either approach makes sense. I was just curious if you were leaning one way or the other. But yeah, that's cool. Looking forward to an update there. I love it when other people in the community kind of host their own challenges. It's a great way to like, get even more involved with the community, and then obviously it brings in new friends, new readers, all kinds of good stuff. So yeah, hosting challenges is always a win in my book. All right, so our next question here. Mary Ellen Brady asks, which flash fiction story did you write that you would like to step into?
Ooh, that I would want to step into.
Yeah,
I wrote a lot of not so nice worlds.
right. Yeah.
As I say in particular, I know this is the opposite of the question, but like I would hate to go into my Feed the Machine world.
Uh-huh.
That was a rough world. Let's not do that. If I were to go into a world, I think I think honestly, my dwarf and gnome world would probably be the most fun, especially on the gnome side because they got a lot more fun trinkets and cool stuff going on, whereas the dwarf side is more like stoic, like steeped in tradition. So that's what I'd
Yeah.
say.
Okay, cool.
For-
Yeah, no, that's actually the answer I expected because if I'm not mistaken, that's more of kind of a cozy world anyway, right?
Generally, yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's
So
still danger. There's still like gnome golems that body dwarves, but you know.
right, 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 right. Yeah, I think out of all the options, that one makes the most sense. So that's a good answer.
Thank
Next up, the Circus Dragon asks, "What's your favorite Pokemon episode and why?"
Okay, no, that's a fair question. Um, oh, okay. Uh, I say her, KJ Harlow and I have like a bunch of Pokemon stuff we generally talk about.
Yeah,
Because we also have done drawings on Substack occasionally. And it was mostly Pokemon. But let's see. I don't remember any specific episodes, although I have watched a lot of the anime. But can I do a movie? I'm gonna do a movie instead.
sure.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
I'm gonna say because I watched it like millions of times when I was a kid, and also I just still stand by my childhood judgment. Um, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew is one of my favorite Pokemon movies ever. And it's kind of a comfort movie now. I go watch it every once in a while. I haven't made my kids watch it. I just realized just now. Okay, that's a new project. They're gonna watch that pretty soon.
yeah, 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 yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, just to kind of share my quick input on Pokemon because I also grew up. I grew up playing a lot of the Pokemon games, and then I definitely watched the initial run of the anime with like Ash Ketchum, like the classic cast.
Right, right.
And then I have very fond memories of the first Pokemon movie, especially going to the theater. I don't know if you did this when you were a kid, but going to the theater and getting the holographic limited edition Mew cards they were handing out.
Ah, all my friends did, and I was so jealous, but
Yeah.
my parents wouldn't take me for the Pokemon movies. Like they're like, no, that's kid stuff. I'm like, I am
Mm.
a kid.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
different
yeah, it's almost like it fits or something. Yeah.
thing.
Um,
Well, I mean, they took me to other things, so.
right, right. No, for sure, for sure. No, I get where you're coming from, but yeah, that's cool. Also, before I jump into the next question, just because I'm a nerd and I'm curious, um, what's your experience with the Pokemon games? Have you played some of the newer ones? Like for example, Pokopia, I forget what it's called, the Animal Crossing one that just came out.
No, I'm super interested. I have been an avid Pokemon player my whole life. My very first game I ever bought with my own money was Pokemon Fire Red.
Okay,
And that was like the first. I mean, I had liked Pokemon before that, but that was like my real cementing. Like, I will be a Pokemon fan if it kills me. I played every Pokemon game since then, except for um X and Y. I had a weird skip where I completely missed those games.
okay,
And then I also haven't played the most recent Legends game, ZA, I think,
right,
or yeah.
okay.
Um, at some point, probably will, but yeah, as of right now, it's just I'm busier now. I'm in more adulty adults. One day I'll get back to it. I still preach the good word of Pokemon, so
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. And I have one last Pokemon question before I give you the next community one, but
oh, sure, I'll
um
take as many Pokemon questions as you give me.
I've recently been getting back into Pokemon games myself, and I have such huge nostalgia for Pokemon Snap specifically.
Oh yeah.
I was
Oh, you
wondering
played
if
the
you
new one?
played that one. Yeah.
I played the old one,
Yeah.
but I spent that was at like a friend's house, so I didn't have that one.
Right.
But when new Pokemon Snap came out, I bought that immediately and I played the heck out of that. Like that's one of my favorite games.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I remember saving up my allowance when I was a kid and buying Pokemon Snap on the N64 from Toys R Us. I remember very distinctly. Um, and yeah, I played the crap
Yeah.
out of it. I just recently got back into new Pokemon Snap on the Switch and really, really been enjoying it. The nostalgia is so real.
Right, and it adds new stuff too. Like it's just so pretty. I like it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Can't recommend it enough. It's great. Awesome. Okay, thank you for indulging my tangent there.
No problem. Actually, if I could say one more thing really quick,
Go ahead.
because I
Yeah,
like to.
yeah.
I am actually 1 month younger than Pokemon. I am the same age.
Wow, that's
And every
cool.
time they have a cool anniversary, like this year's their 30th. I'm turning 30 this month. So it's like, yes, like new I can always look forward to new cool Pokemon stuff.
That's amazing. Your birthday is like built in with the anniversary there. That's awesome.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's fantastic. That's a great little fact. I like that. Okay, so next up, this one wasn't so much a question, but a person commented on your profile picture. Cedar Jones said that he would rate it an 11 out of 10 and called it glorious. So that prompted
Thank you,
me
thank
to
you.
wonder myself, what is the backstory behind your profile picture on Substack?
Okay, so there's a little bit of a story there.
Yeah.
So so I this was after I published my story before I started like writing on like Substack. Um, so my friend, I think I mentioned earlier, Victoria Papas is her name. Uh, oh, I probably said her last name wrong. I'm so sorry, Victoria, if you're listening. Um, but uh, she is a photographer, and she actually was doing a bunch of pictures for me, like professionally.
Mhm.
Um, and that particular one was her husband Zach and I were kind of moving around in between some of the pictures, and there was like a piano prop there. So I was like pretending to like, I'm just gonna take some pictures of you with Victoria's cameras. And I ended up like really liking that one. And there's also another one he took that was like way more moody, and I'm like, I love this one. But like for Substack, I was like, yeah, we're here to have fun, so I'm gonna go with the fun
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. No, that's definitely the vibe on Substack. That's cool though. That's really great. I love that. Um, all right. Well, that's all the community questions, but I had one just also slot in at the end here. I think I may already know the answer to it. But
Okay.
out of all your Flash Fiction February stories, I wanted to know, if someone who's listening that may not be familiar with your work, what's the one that you would recommend that they read first?
Ooh, okay. So, can I have multiple answers here?
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, so um, I'd say it depends on what you're looking for.
Right.
So, like my best cozy piece is actually Seller's Remorse, which is about like a little bookstore mystery. And actually, in that story, just as a fun aside, a tangent within a tangent, if you will, I actually have a couple little nods to some other Substackers here, including you actually, where their names are kind of similar, their personalities are a little similar, but I did gender bend them, except for Verdant Butterfly. She gets to be a bookstore. Um, anyway, so if you want cozy, Seller's Remorse is like where I would recommend you start. If you like more like horror, suspense, thriller type stuff, Guess the Liar was, and that was actually my top story for a very long time. That's the one
Mm-hmm.
with the kids playing the card game.
Yes. Yes.
That was a lot of fun to write and was very well received. Um, if you want like a little bit different, slightly cozy, slightly adventure, slightly fantasy, that would be The Working Heart of Heartly Working. That's the first of the Orphan Gnome series, which is
Okay.
not really a series, but there's three of those. But to end all be all, if you had to pick one, like life or death, gun against my head, it's gonna be the one I've been saying this whole time, The Pride of Dwarves. That's just the piece I'm the most proud of and enjoy the most. Sorry
Yeah.
to all my other pieces. Apparently, I have a favorite child.
No, but it makes sense. I mean, that one really was a standout piece. But I have to say, the ones you recommended for other genres are spot on as well, especially the horror one you did. That was really cool. I guess the liar.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that was a cool one. If I'm not mistaken, that was for the day five prompt, which was the first wild card, and it was the one where you needed to write a story about I think it was a ritual or game.
Yeah, and I
And
chose a little
yeah,
both, mostly game. I was like,
right.
I went to college for game art and design, so I'm going to use that degree.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like a fully functional game, exactly as the prompt asked. So that was awesome.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, it is playable.
That's awesome. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, yeah, that concludes the community questions. I've got a few more here for the back side of the interview. So next up, I wanted to kind of shift focus towards 2026 and looking, ahead. So what for the benefit of the listeners here, what kind of projects do you have planned for 2026, and are you working on anything major like a book?
Okay, so at the beginning of this year, I set like a whole list of goals I was going to try and hit. One of those, the loftiest one, was to write three books this year.
Wow, okay.
Um, I kind of knew I was probably not going to hit that goal. So now after we've been going for a while, and plus then there was Flash Fiction for February, I think my new goal is to finish two parts. Like one, I got to finish my serial, The Water Thief, which I am very much enjoying writing. I've got a lot going on in there. It's all mostly planned out in my head. I'm very much a pantser, so like there's a lot of stuff that just kind of coming to me as it comes. But I know where it's going to end, and I want to finish that this year. And then I also want to at least get one of these other two really, for me, compelling book ideas. I got to get at least one of them out and started,
Hmm.
ideally finished as well. So I guess technically a serial and a book is my like goals for this year, as
Okay.
well as continuing to write like for the community whenever I can, as much as I can.
Cool. Okay. Nice. I like it. Do
Pardon me.
you have or are you able to share any details about the book in terms of like the genre or premise or anything, or is that still under wraps?
So I have those two ideas. One of them is uh, picture like the Littles, if you're familiar,
Mm-hmm.
or like the borrowers, that type of thing. So
Okay.
like little people. But they're in a gigantic house that has been abandoned completely by humans for a very long time. And as such, they've started to build their own societies, uh, including warring with each other and the elements and things that have crept in without human oversight or provisions. So that one I think is really cool, and I want to do that. And then the other one is sci-fi. Think I don't want to say too much because there's this huge twist I really want to pull off.
Mm,
Um, so I can't really. I'm going to say I can't really say too much about it because I have a tendency to spoil things, and that one I actually don't want to spoil
totally
if I do
fair.
it
Yeah.
or when I
Yeah.
do it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally fair. It sounds really good though. I'm really excited. I like the sound of both. Those are both very compelling. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, we're down to my last question here, and this is something I ask every guest on the show, but wanted to know what's one piece of advice you would give to someone who's just starting out on their creative journey, or maybe they're coming back to writing for the first time in a long time.
Okay, so I have heard you pretty much. I've tried to be an avid listener,
Yeah, yeah.
so I have heard you ask this to pretty much every other guest, and every time you've asked it, I've been like, "What would my answer be?" So this one actually a little bit. Uh, so to just to keep myself straight, um, so I would say, like most of them have said that you don't do it, just go right, just perfect is the enemy of done. And I would say they're right. Like the time for whatever you're trying to do is not going to just happen. Like there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I'll do it when the stars align or when I get time. It's not going to. You need to seize it for yourself. And sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it really hurts. I've had times where it really sucks, but you gotta like rip into your schedule and make that time, or it's not gonna happen.
Right, right. No, yeah, that's honestly been my experience as well. It's yeah, you have to advocate for yourself and for that time because it won't, like you said, it won't fall in your lap as much as we all wish it would.
Right? Life would be so much easier if it did, but that's not the world we live in, unfortunately.
Yep, 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 yep. No, that's good advice. That's good advice. I like that answer a lot. All right, Daniel. Well, that's all the questions we had from myself and the community, but just wanted to thank you again, not only for being on the show here, but for just being a part of this community, for participating in the challenge. And obviously congratulations as well, once again, for taking home the win in the lightweight category this month. It has been a true pleasure to have you on the show here. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for having me. And I'm just so pleased to be here. So like I don't know what else I could say. Like I'm just happy that I got you as a friend and that I made so many friends here in the community. And to all the people who I haven't read yet, I'm getting there. And I'm just so happy to be here.
Yeah, yeah, I wholeheartedly agree. Thank you again.
All right, and a huge thank you to Daniel again for coming onto the show, and once again, congratulations to him for the win in Flash Fiction February 2026. I'll be scheduling interviews with our other two winners soon as well, so stay tuned for that. And now, a look at next week on Substack. So, next week's going to be a little quieter than normal for me, but I have a good reason. We have family coming to visit the second half of this coming week, and I am determined to take some time off to be present and enjoy the time with them. That means PTO at my day job, and it means shifting things around here as well, since you all know a lot happens here on any given week. So here's the plan. The power-up prompts will return tomorrow as planned, but tomorrow's prompt is going to last 2 weeks instead of 1. That means you'll have double the time to submit stories, and I will cover all of them in a future podcast episode as well. I'm going to postpone wandering prompts hidden in the podcast here for another week as well, so that's why you haven't heard one yet. But don't worry, those will be back soon too. This coming week, I'm going to send Mina Howell the narration for her winning story in the Devine Challenge back from February, which means I'll be waiting one more week to restart the Order of the Pawn series. My apologies for the delay, Devine fans. I know you've been waiting patiently, and I appreciate you. Once it's back, it will be back to its usual bi-weekly schedule. And I'll still have a podcast episode next Friday, but it might be on a bit of a shorter side.
That being said, I have a really cool interview scheduled for next week, so it'll be a good episode regardless. Oh, and 2 more quick things. I'm going to have a story out before the end of the month set in Clenchport as part of Indie Ink Fund's ongoing Portals New Beginnings Challenge, and I'm actually recording voiceover for it with another cast member of the upcoming Clenchport animated series, so it's going to be really cool. Stay tuned for more news there. And while it might take a little bit longer than I'd like, I'm also working on the second episode of the Many Worlds of Clenchport podcast, which just passed 500 downloads for the first episode, so thank you so much for the enthusiasm there. I'm really excited to show you all what Side B looks like very soon. And of course, I've got a lot more going on behind the scenes, but I can't talk about all of that just yet. I hope you all, in the meantime, have an amazing, safe, and productive week. This is Bradley Ramsey, signing off. Hey, Lord Devereaux, you okay?
Yes. I seem to be falling into a... what is it you humans call it?
A, food coma?
Yes, that's the one. I have devoured all of Daniel's work once more, and find myself quite content.
Alright, well, I'll let you sleep it off before we bring on the next winner to the show here.
Yes, that would be preferable.